Hi, I'm Macy, one of your registered dietitians. Welcome to the December Kids Cook at Home class. It's our last class of 2024, and we are going to be making some delicious, cheesy recipes today. These recipes are great for a snow day or really any time. So I'm super excited. Let's go ahead, get started. Let's wash our hands starting out. Our first recipe today is the mac and cheese muffins. So go ahead and grab out a muffin tin and some muffin liners. If you don't have muffin liners, you can go ahead and grease your muffin tin. And then also grab out the tater tots for our next recipe. We want those thawed when we move into that second recipe. So we can go ahead, if you have muffin liners, plop those in the slots. And once you have your muffin liners in, then the next step is to boil our pasta. So with the help of an adult, go ahead and bring a medium-sized pot of water to a boil, and then you can go ahead and cook the pasta 2 cups to the package instructions. So pause here, go ahead and do that. And then while our pasta is cooking, we are going to go ahead and crack our eggs. So go ahead, get that pasta going, grab your eggs, and we will move to that next step while our pasta is cooking. We are going to crack all 3 of the eggs that we're using across 2 of the recipes today. So our first recipe for our mac and cheese cup calls for 2 eggs, and our broccoli tater tots call for 1 egg. So we can go ahead, grab out an egg with the help of an adult, crack the egg on a flat surface. And then where it broke on the shell, you can push your thumbs into that spot, pull apart the shell, and drop the egg in the bowl. And then we'll go ahead and add another egg to this first bowl. And then in a separate bowl, we'll crack 1 egg. And once you have finished cracking your eggs, go ahead and toss those shells and make sure that you wash your hands. Anytime we're working with raw eggs, we want to make sure we get our hands nice and clean afterwards. We are going to go ahead and cut up our bell pepper. So have an adult help you with this step. And this is what we are going to be putting into our mac and cheese cups. The great thing about this recipe is that you can put any veggies you like in there. So if you like peppers, you can go ahead with the pepper. Otherwise, you could add mushrooms or really any vegetable that you enjoy. So again, grab help of an adult and we'll get cutting with this pepper. So we can lay it on its side, and we are going to start with cutting the top off. Set that aside, and then we are going to flip it over on that flat surface, and then we are going to cut off each lobe of the pepper. So we can go ahead and just cut one, turn it, cut off the next, and the last. And we can go ahead and set this aside, and we'll flip these over. And the next step is to cut each of these into strips. So go ahead and cut these into thin strips. And when we're cutting, always keeping our fingers away from the knife using a claw grip. And then once we have these strips, we can push them all together, and we are going to cut them one more time into small diced pieces. And then we have those ready to go, and then you can go ahead and do the same steps with the rest of the pepper. And once you have completed your pepper, you can go ahead and put these pieces in a bowl and then grab all of the ingredients for this recipe, and we will come back here and start assembling our cups. I have all my ingredients here, so let's go ahead and measure out our milk for today. We'll need 1/2 cup, and anytime that we are measuring liquids, we want to use a liquid measuring cup, and we want to make sure that while we're measuring it out, we get down eye level to the line so we can make sure that we're measuring an accurate amount. So we'll go ahead and do that. Got our 1/2 cup. So I went ahead and strained my pasta, so you can put that in a bowl, and then we're going to dump everything into this bowl and mix it together. So I got our milk. I have mozzarella cheese. This is Borden cheese that I'm using today, and there is a good source of calcium in every serving, so calcium helps us have strong bones. Add that in, and then next up we have our eggs. We just want to make sure that those are scrambled and beat before we add those in. So go ahead, if you haven't already, you can grab a fork or a whisk, get those nice and mixed, and then we can pour that on in. And then we have our diced peppers that we cut up earlier. And lastly, some salt and pepper. So go ahead then and give this a nice good mix. And once you have that mixed together, then you can go ahead and grab your muffin tin, and I'm going to clean aside all of these items, and then we're gonna meet back here and start putting this mixture into the muffin tin. So now we are going to scoop our mixture into the tin, so you can go ahead and grab the mixture out and just start filling each slot. And once you have completed filling this, then if you have any leftovers, you can go ahead and make another tin if you would like to. Otherwise, we are going to set this aside for now. All 3 of our recipes today are going to go into the oven at the same time. So again, you can set this aside and we will move on to our next recipe. Recipe number 2 is our broccoli tater tots. So we will start out with microwaving our broccoli. So we'll need 2 cups. So if you have a microwave safe bag, you can go ahead and throw that in. Otherwise, I have broccoli today that I'm going to need to measure out and microwave in a bowl. So I will measure out 2 cups. And then you can just go ahead and microwave that according to the package instructions, and then we will move to the next step. When your broccoli is done in the microwave, go ahead, grab that out. If there's any excess water, go ahead and strain that water out. So if you haven't done that, you can go ahead and pause here to do so. Otherwise, we are going to move into our next step, which is to chop our broccoli. So we can go ahead and grab out a piece of broccoli, and we are just going to begin cutting across the broccoli and chopping it. So do just like this. And then we are going to continue with the remaining pieces of broccoli. So we'll do one more. And just a note, if your broccoli is steaming hot, make sure you give it a second to cool off before you start working with it. Otherwise, that is how we'll chop our broccoli. You can pause here to finish the rest of the bowl. Go ahead, have all of your ingredients out, and we are going to mix all of these together in a mixing bowl. So we'll start with the egg. Again, like we did in our last recipe, make sure that's nice and scrambled up. We're going to add that to the bowl. Then go ahead and add the broccoli. Our cheese, and our tater tots. So at the beginning of the class, we set these out so that they'd be nice and soft. They need to be soft enough to be able to combine them with the rest of the ingredients. So kind of mushy. If they aren't, you can go ahead and pop them in the microwave for a few seconds to get them nice and softened. And then from there, we are just going to combine all of these together. And once you have this all mixed, go ahead and grab out a baking sheet. We are going to lightly grease that. And our next step is to start forming these into tots again. We are going to now form these into tater tots. And so go ahead and wash your hands again if you haven't already done so. So you can pause here to wash your hands. Otherwise, we're going to get started. So we can just reach in, grab some of the mixture, and we are just going to use our hands to form those. And they don't have to be exactly the same shape as a tater tot. They can kind of be a ball, and you can kind of decide how big that you want them to be. So we don't have any rules here with that. And then you can go ahead and just set those on your greased baking sheet. So we can continue to do that with the rest of this mixture. You can go ahead and pause here to do that if you'd like to. Otherwise, I will finish doing that here. So I went ahead and washed my hands because we got really messy as we made those tater tots. And then once you have a pan full of them, then we can set these aside and we will move to our final recipe for today's class. And then go ahead and preheat your oven to 375 degrees now. For our last recipe, which is the garlic green beans, you can go ahead and grab out all of the ingredients except the cheese, and we are going to combine them all. So I have my bowl of green beans, and then we have our olive oil, so we can go ahead and pour that on. And then next up is our garlic. And lastly, salt and pepper. And go ahead and give that a good mix. So all of our beans are coated. And then we can go ahead and grab our baking sheet, and we are just going to add them to the baking sheet. All right, so now we have our oven preheated at the 375, and we are going to add all three of the dishes that we made to the oven for 20 minutes. So you can go ahead and do that now. I have went ahead and grabbed all three of our dishes out of the oven, and our last step for our beans is to sprinkle the cheese over the top. So you can go ahead, grab your cheese, sprinkle it over. And then we are going to go ahead and pop this back in the oven for about a minute or two, just until the cheese has melted. So you can go ahead and do that now. Thank you so much for joining me for our December's Kids Cook at Home class. I hope you had a fantastic time making these cheesy recipes. A special thank you to Borden for supplying the recipes for today's class and making today's class possible. Borden is awesome because they are 100% owned by American dairy farm families, so that is super fun. And also a reminder to fill out the after class survey. That will be at the bottom of the setup guide, and it will also come in an email about a week after class launch. So if you go ahead and fill that out, then you will be entered in a drawing for a chance to win a $25 gift card to one of our stores. So thank you again. I hope you guys have an awesome December, and we will see you at our next class next year.